Recently, I got a chance to interview Tracy, a very kind and thoughtful woman, one of the folks who got invited out to Normal, Illinois to tour the Rivian plant to ask RJ and the crew some questions. She talks in this segment of the interview about something she refers to as the human touch, sort of the vibe that she felt at Rivian during her visit at the plant. You mentioned that your family are traditionally, or perhaps still, I guess, business owners.
Yes.
And I think this is something that kept your interest in Rivian from the start, because you kind of feel that same feeling. And maybe you can talk about your experience while visiting the plant there in Normal and talking with RJ and others, how that gave you a sense of like who they are as a company. And yeah. I don't want to put RJ on a pedestal, but he seems like a really good guy. And I don't even think he would want to be on a pedestal. And I think that leadership kind of has trickled down and means something. Yeah. I know to you. Tell me a little bit more about that.
So a little background about me. My parents used to own mom and pop grocery stores out on the west coast of the United States. And when a customer would walk in, let's say we opened at 9. When we opened at 9, that meant we were ready to take customers at 9. That didn't mean we were just opening the door and we're still getting the register going. We were ready to go. And when you walked in, you either met me when I was a kid working the cash register, right? Or my mom, or my dad, right? You walked into family, and instantly they knew it was a family thing, right? And if they found something and the price was off or weird or whatever, we really worked with them. We took care of them, and that's just how we were. Even as we opened up more stores, that didn't change. And people really appreciated being able to walk into that. So to be flown up there and to walk in, and I'm meeting, RJ, I'm meeting his wife, I'm meeting his kids, and it's not a sales pitch. It's, hi, I'm a human. Hi, I'm a human too. Nice kids. Very, it felt familiar to me. And I don't know that people really recognize that unless they come from that or they know it, but I could feel it around me. And for years now, I've felt like the auto industry has gotten way out of hand as far as how they treat their employees and how they treat their customers. And it needs to change. It's time for it to change. And I think RJ is really bringing that to the table. I've talked to a few friends who've had interviews with Elon Musk, and my understanding is it's very business. There isn't really that family touch there, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. Not putting it down. He's a phenomenal businessman, but I think that you can have both and still do a win-win. And RJ, from what I've seen so far, has really found that balance. I talked to his employees. I watched how he interacted with his employees, and I saw very similar practices to how my parents would treat the employees that we had in the grocery stores.
You mentioned before that you were impressed by the fact that when RJ would walk up to, an employee, they wouldn't flinch or tighten up.
Correct. Yeah, they were, and I think having come from leadership, kind of what I do with work, you can tell the difference between somebody who leads a group of people and they listen out of fear versus listening out of respect. Two totally different ball games. For him, when I saw him talk to an employee, it was a mutual conversation. There was dialogue really going back and forth, and there was comfort in a way that it allowed the individuals to grow within the areas of expertise that they were really hired to do. Someone who's very authoritarian or very, hey, you're going to respect me out of fear. There's no growth there. There's no development. They just get done what they're supposed to, and they probably run out of there as fast as they can. These guys were around the clock, and they love what they're doing. They feel a sense of ownership of what they're doing, and they just feel a part of it. And that's a good company.
I mean, and it's certainly going to reflect itself in that ethos is going to reflect itself in their products too, wouldn't you say?
Yes. Oh yeah, absolutely. If you take an entity that does search and rescue, if their heart's not in it, do you really want that person out there taking care of you, or do you want somebody out there whose heart is there and they're going to do everything they can to get you in a safe place? The product, the service that you receive is night and day between somebody who really has their heart in the right place and wants to be there versus somebody who's there because they need to bring in, $1 to put food on the table. So yeah, the products that you're going to get are absolutely going to showcase that.
I haven't met him or been on the factory floor, but you get the sense even from just the various promotional materials and talking to you. I mean, I live in Denver, and just this last weekend, there was a press event up in Breckenridge, just an hour away. There was a guy on the Rivian forums who heard about it and went up there, and he had nothing to do with this event, but he just happened to find them. And RJ walked over and spent 20 minutes with them, chatting with them. And I'm sure he has a million things to do, but super nice. And then when this guy posted this experience online, several other people chimed in and had very similar stories, including Bruce, who I interviewed previously. Similar thing. A guy who said they met RJ at an event and they took him out to dinner afterwards. I mean, this is nuts. I mean,
I think to give you an idea, the last time I had my truck in the shop, I needed to get the regional manager from Ford Corporate involved. And I told him, I said, listen, for what's going on, you got the dealership's low staffed, understand, like the guys are doing a great job, right? But just need to bring you in and get visibility on this because this is what's going on and this is what customers are facing. And I had asked Ford Corporate if this story could be pushed up to the lady, I think her name's Evelyn Ford. She's the head of customer service at Ford Corporate. And I was told, no, like we're not allowed to reach out to her. We're not allowed to, we can't send this up there. We can't do that. Whereas like I go out to this, I'm nobody. I'm just like a little piece of this world. I'm not some $13 billion person that's going to hand $1 million to the company. And RJ not only spent time with me talking and answering questions and just, a good conversation, he also took me out on the track. And he had nothing really to gain from that. It was just taking pride in what he's built and then opening his door and sharing it to others. So that is one very drastic difference that I've experienced between the two companies. To know that the head of customer service doesn't have the time and doesn't want to be contacted for stories like what I went through versus like RJ, the owner of the company, is spending that time. It's just night and day.
Well, do you think that this is maintainable? This sort of ethos is maintainable even when they get super busy? I mean, they're already super busy, but
I do, and I'll tell you why.
Why?
When I went up there towards the end of the trip, I met my guide, and RJ's philosophies, who he is, the sense of ownership, the customer service shines through my guide. And it's not because it isn't who she is. It is because it is who she is. And she's been right there answering any questions. If she doesn't have something, she has access to the people that have the answers. And I respect that 110%, right? I understand the top dog can't answer every single individual question, but make sure somebody has access to that individual and make sure the stories can get up to the people that are making the decisions. Because if they're not getting the stories, then what's going to change for the better in the future?
Right. Well, it sounds like that's just generally a company worth sticking with and putting your weight behind, which I completely agree with. Thanks for watching. Thanks especially to Tracy. We'll have more of this interview coming up in future segments. Please subscribe and share with your friends. We'll see you in the next one.